Hello, and welcome to our first episode of PCB Chat for 2026, where we talk with experts across the printed circuit design, manufacturing, and electronic supply chain fields. I'm Mike Buetow, president of the Printed Circuit Engineering Association. Joining me today is Maggie Frachioni, a semiconductor hardware engineer at General Motors. Maggie has a bachelor's in computer engineering from Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology, and after graduation from Rose-Hulman, she landed with GM as a software engineer in its automotive test lab. She then started work toward her master's at Wayne State University in Detroit, where she was part of the first PCEA certified printed circuit designer course taught as part of a university curriculum. Today, we're going to talk about what she's doing at GM and her experiences with being part of that trailblazing designer training class. Happy New Year, Maggie.
Happy New Year. Thanks for allowing me to join you.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you today because it is the first time I've actually formally had a conversation with anybody who was part of the Wayne State class. But before we get into that, I just want to talk about GM. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a bit about your role there? As I understand it, it's changed a bit in the 2+ years since you started.
Yeah, so when I graduated, I was recruited into their rotational program, which is called TRAC, the Technical Rotation Program. And so you're allowed to move through different roles to sort of understand what you're interested in and get a good taste of the company before you're permanently placed as an employee. So when I first joined, I was working at the Milford Proving Grounds as a software engineer in our testing lab. So I got to learn about the emissions testing and the test benches, and I got to work with a lot of the techs, and that was really cool. And then after a year, or about 10 or 11 months, I switched to the technical center in Warren and was a semiconductor design release engineer. And I loved it so much, I asked to stay. And so now I'm here.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, you started in the lab and now you're moving toward more closer to direct product development.
Yeah. I had more experience in testing, and I think coming out of college, you have a better idea of what it looks like to be a test engineer. And so I think that was a really cool introduction, and you get to see really deep on how the vehicles are being interacted with. And that was a great experience, but I realized that software really wasn't my thing. So I tried to find something more electrical hardware, and semiconductors was something that I had been really interested in since undergrad. And so when I saw that the experience came up to be a semiconductor design release engineer, I was like, oh, I got to do it. So I reached out to my manager and he said, welcome to the team, essentially.
So why do you think that is? Why do you think that you knew more about test engineering coming out of college? Was it just the nature of the curriculum? You spent some time, working with the lab tools on the bench, things like that?
Yeah, so I think when you're in college, one thing that I really loved about Rose was there was a lot of lab work. So you were working with the breadboards, you were working with the test benches, and they did a really good job of showing you the test environment and the testing process. So when you think of testing vehicles, it's like, okay, well, we have these test benches, we're taking all of this data, we're digesting it, we're feeding it to the government for a lot of the emissions testing. So you have a good idea of what you're getting into, as opposed to product development. That's not really something that you get to experience in college until at least our junior and senior capstone projects. So it's sort of a hazy wall that you're looking through, and it's a lot larger process, I think, and a lot longer process for vehicle development. And so I think it's a little more intimidating going into it initially. So, yeah.
So did Rose have a semiconductor track? Like, was that a particular curriculum?
I think it just started to come up my junior year. So I took a MEMS course, a electromechanical systems course. And we sort of get into semiconductor development and manufacturing. And there was also a route that I took where I got a certification in integrated circuit testing. With one of my favorite professors there, and that allowed us to get a stronger understanding of low-level electrical architecture and how devices work and how they're developed. So once I took those courses and I had an understanding of what semiconductors were and where they came from and why we used them, it sort of started grabbing my interest. And at that point, around 2020, that's when the chip crisis hit. So getting all of these news articles about, oh, we're low on semiconductors, all these chips, the manufacturing, I was like, oh, this is something really cool. And obviously there's job opportunity here. So that, I think, I wanted to start down that road towards semiconductors.
Yeah, I've lived through so many now of these semiconductor boom bust cycles, these over inventory followed by, total scarcity. And, it seems like, you just you can't escape it. If you've been in the industry 10 years and you've lived at least through a couple of these. Interesting that you got it because you were coming out of college. You went through college during the COVID years. So that, you had that. That's when everything really kind of came to a head this last go around on the semi side. And we're still living through that right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So then as part of the MEMS course, were you introduced to circuit theory?
Not as much in the MEMS course. I think Rose did a good job of introducing circuit theory through all of the circuit classes that we had to take. But I don't think it quite dives as deep as you get hit in the industry, just because you can't really go that deep when you're taking so many classes. But it was a good introduction. And I think I'm able to pick up on a lot of the things that are happening at work that I'm interacting with because of what was introduced in school.
And what prompted the decision to go back for your master's?
Well, General Motors has a really good program where they support you furthering your education on multiple different routes. And my roommate at the time started getting her MBA. So I thought about getting an MBA or maybe something more technical. And I realized that I think I do want to dive more into the technical depth. So I started researching schools around here that did electrical engineering and maybe hybrid programs so I could still work full time. And while I was looking, Wayne State popped up that said that they were starting this brand new semiconductor engineering program. And I said, this is perfect. It was right place at the right time. So I applied and I got in and was really excited to start.
For folks who don't know, Wayne State is the third largest public university in the state of Michigan after University of Michigan and Michigan State. 28,000 students. I mean, it's huge. And it's right in Detroit. And over the last few years, they've really done a good job, in my opinion, of recognizing really what some of the needs are for tech and capitalizing on state grants in order to be able to offer that to their array of students. Maggie, you were part of that first cohort of students at Wayne State to take ECE 5995, which doesn't mean anything to anybody except for me, because that's the academic version of the PCEA Certified Printed Circuit Designer course.
Yeah.
And I think the Wayne State schedule is a little bit different than some schools, where many schools have, I think, 45-hour, 15-week semesters. At Wayne State, it was somewhat longer, correct?
Yes. I think, I can't remember the exact length, but it passed the length of the regular semester because we ended up taking the Certified Printed Circuit Design Certification exam so that we were certified in the industry for working on PCBs and circuits.
So that's all absolutely true. I'm going to brag about you here in a moment. So yeah, you did get the most of, not the whole 40-hour class as part of that, because we pulled out a few things in order to accommodate some other things that they wanted to do at Wayne State as part of that class. So I think you got exposure to some fab facilities. Is that correct?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
So did you do a plant tour?
Yeah, they did offer a plant tour. Unfortunately, they did have to change the date because of issues with the person giving us the tour. So I didn't make it. But I heard from my classmates that it was really, really cool and it was a really good experience. Yeah,
so that was at Saturn PCB. And then you had some ECAD training in addition to that.
Yeah, we got the opportunity to work with Siemens Pads Professional. And we had a project that we did of setting up a PCB layout and getting it checked off and going through all the DRC checks. And that was very, very cool experience.
Did you guys take those to fabrication as well, or did you just stop at the DRC?
We didn't get them to fabrication, but we did have to go through the DRC, which for the first time was very intimidating and frustrating. But it was very cool, and you get to recognize like how much work goes into these boards. And we just did very simple ones, but it it was really, really cool getting to go through that with Steph and Amar.
Yeah, so she's referring to Steph Chavez, who taught the class on behalf of PCEA, and Amar Basu, who is the professor at Wayne State, who is the liaison to the class. So, Maggie, did you have any PCB design experience prior to that class?
I did very briefly during my junior year at school. One of our projects was we had to create a board for a robot that was autonomously moving through a maze. And so we got to work with Design Spark, which is a layout editor, among other things. And we had to build a board for our power supply for the robot. And that was very, very high level design. So it was cool that I got to sort of take that experience and pull it in. And I had a sort of basic understanding of what needed to happen and where things needed to go. But Paz Professional was awesome to work with. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It was during our junior capstone
course. Got it. Now, going back to the Wayne State course, you mentioned that you passed a certification, which was great. I'm going to brag. So there were, I think, 22 or so students in the class. I think 7 of them passed. As a final exam, you were given the certification exam.
Yep.
And Maggie was one of the people that passed, so that's really stellar. We're very proud of you. Specifically, what do you think were the top benefits or takeaways from the class? I mean, beyond just getting the certification, of course.
I think, for one, Steph was awesome. And he's been such a great supporter. I mean, he's reached out to me multiple times and really pulled us into the PCB world. And so having that contact and that relationship with him was great. And I'm really happy that I got to work with him and meet him. In terms of the course, I think it was a very, very good, deep, thorough dive of everything that goes into making a board, from obtaining the materials and why you use certain materials to why you're placing specific parts on different parts of the board. And so you don't really get that in most classes because you can't really cover that amount of material because you have so much to cover. So I think being able to focus on this very specific topic and a specific material allowed us to get a really, really good understanding of just board design and circuit design. And we were even given a textbook through the class that has all the material that I've referenced many, many times since then. So that's also been very helpful and very cool in my current job.
Yeah, it's just not really a straightforward linear type of process, right? The whole design decision making. I mean, I know they talk a lot about the pyramid, where solvability and manufacturability and so on.
Yeah.
You're finding that out, that in real life, that's all true.
Very much so. Yeah.
Do you think that taking the class will have much of an impact on your career arc?
I think it really did. When I took the class, I signed up for it, and it was more of an interest of, PCBs. I'm working with those. Those are really cool. Let's go get the deeper dive. And then I found out that you get the certification. And I thought, this is a lot bigger than I thought it was. And so my perception of the industry changed from mostly semiconductor and semiconductor technology to building the boards and what the semiconductors are doing on those boards. And so I think that would be a really cool path for me to pursue in the future, is board design or circuit design. And that's all because of the class that I took, honestly.
That's great to hear. And so if we come back and talk to you in 5 years or so, do you have any particular goals in mind for the next few years?
Well, I love what I'm doing at GM, and I think if I continue to do what I'm doing and maybe get into a new role where I'm working with the board directly and working with the layout directly, I think that would be so much fun. And I think I'd learn so much.
Well, I hope that we see you at PCB Detroit in June at Wayne State on the campus again. And Maggie, I want to thank you for joining us on PCB Chat. Good luck with this next stage of your career. I'm sure we will be running into you down the road, figuratively speaking, of course.
Well, thank you. Yeah, this is great. I really appreciate you reaching out.
For PCB Chat, this is Mike Buetow. Have a nice day.